Hi guys, Arthur here from Homeowner DIY. In this video, I'm going to be removing a garbage disposal and transitioning back into a basket strainer for a kitchen sink. The garbage disposal, the garberator, doesn't work anymore, and the homeowner asked me if I can just go back into a traditional cup drain basket strainer. In my opinion, as long as you have intermediate DIY skills, this should be a relatively simple, straightforward job. So with that in mind, we'll look at our setup. This is our setup. The Waste King garberator on the right will be removed, and then I'm going to install a new cup drain and then repipe this sink. So it'll be, once again, a 2-compartment sink, just minus the garberator. So with that in mind, what we'll do now is material and tools. Alright, this is the materials list for this job. So I have a cup drain, also known as a basket strainer. 11/16 to 1.25 inch gear clamp. I have 2 dishwasher wires. I don't know the size of the dishwasher drain hose. I'm pretty sure that I need the 1/2 inch, but I got the 3/4 as well. I'll return if I need to. 1.5 inch ABS 90 coupling, 1.5 by 1.5 slip adapter, ABS glue, and then pipe. Guys, this is the material list for this job. So what we'll do now is the tools list. Alright, this is the tools list for this job. So I have my pouch. So for hand tools, flathead screwdriver, measuring tape, channel locks, level, whatever else I might need. Hacksaw, container for water, work light, and an extension cord. Guys, this is the tools list for this job. So let's replace this garberator with a basket strainer. Alright guys, so I have said that there are 2 types of cup drains, basket strainers for kitchens. I guess there's technically 3. So this is the 3rd type that it's plastic here at the bottom. So the other 2 either have a ring that comes, a nut from the bottom comes up to compress it, or they'll have a bigger one. So this one is a different style. There's a screw in the middle. So you undo the screw. This goes inside. So this one comes with a foam ring. If you have one that has either a damaged foam ring or there is no foam ring, just put putty. But because this has the foam ring, I'll use this. And then what you're going to do for this one is you'll put this down inside. You have a rubber gasket. So the ribs here go to the top. So the flat part goes into here into the bottom. And then when you install this, you're going to put this down, put this up. And then you're going to tighten up with this screw. Now this screw for some reason is not, it's not like a socket. It has just 2 slots, and you sometimes have to get creative with a screwdriver to make this work. But that is your quick overview for this style of kitchen cup drain, also known as a basket strainer. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the dishwasher drain. So there is a clamp. Take a set of channel lock pliers and just squeeze the 2 ends together. That'll open the clamp up, and then you can slide off the dishwasher drain. Also be sure to put a container underneath just in case any water drips out. Next we'll be cutting the drain between the 2 compartments. So if anything, cut closer to the garberator because that'll give you a longer length of pipe. But keep in mind, when you glue on the new dishwasher Y, that's going to act as a coupling and allow you to extend as much as you need to. But I personally like to keep the dishwasher Y roughly in the middle between the 90 and the T coming down. People like symmetry. The garberator can now be untwisted off, so take a flathead screwdriver, because I don't have a key, and twist it to the left. This is going to be very similar to a Badger garberator. Guys, check out the description for the install of a Badger, so you will have a Waste King and Badger at your disposal. To remove the collar, the first thing that needs to be done is the metal piece at the bottom has to be removed. There's a rubber piece that holds on the metal piece, so just pull that off. It just fits into a groove, and then the metal bracket piece can come off. Now the big plastic nut at the top can be loosened off, and then the collar assembly
can be removed. Because this is plastic, it shouldn't be difficult to take this off. Since I'm removing it anyway, you can technically just cut it off. With the nut off, the entire piece can now just be pushed up into the sink and removed. It's either going to be putty or a foam gasket underneath holding it down. The new basket strainer can be installed, so put the foam ring underneath, drop it into the hole in the sink, and then the bottom portion can be attached on the bottom side of the sink. The bottom portion can now be attached to the bottom of the sink. So the black rubber gasket is already on, and what I'm doing is I'm threading on this screw on the inside of the sink, and that's what's going to hold the bottom portion in place. Now, using a flathead screwdriver, the screw in the middle can be tightened down. It doesn't need to be tightened down all that much, just tighten it down until you feel resistance. With the cup drain tightened down, make sure it's centered in the hole. Look at it all the way around. You can lightly tap with channel lock pliers on the bottom to shift it back and forth until you get it nicely centered. Keep in mind, this will be visible. Because the old drainage went behind the garberator, the drainage is not aligned to the compartment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut in a coupling, and I'm going to give the drainage a spin so it aligns with the other compartment. I noticed a stain of a drip where the MJ was. That's where the trap has just come out of, so it was a little bit loose. I guess what happened was the amount of food particles that was going by eventually just plugged up the weeping leak that was there. Moving the drainage portion, you see how the cup drain is moving as well, the gray plastic. If it is moving, it's probably too loose, so it needs to be tightened down. Keep in mind that you can also cause a leak if you're moving it. So I'm going to take a pair of channel locks and loosen off the slip adapter so I can move the ABS drainage without affecting the cup drain. I decided to lower the drainage a little bit so the 90 on the right for the right compartment won't have issue hitting the bottom of the tailpiece. So with it lowered, I now have this all mocked up that I can start piping it. For the dishwasher Y, I personally like to have it roughly in the middle between the two compartments so it looks symmetrical. Now when you are gluing on the dishwasher Y, make sure that it is quite vertical so you'll have a nice run coming down into it. Make sure it's not flat. I mean, this is really a no-brainer, but it's still something I'd like to point out. So I made a mock-up for the slip adapter and the 90. You want to make sure that you have plenty of space, that the tailpiece is not going to hit the 90 and everything is going to work out. It's easier to make adjustments now than realize you made a mistake after you've glued everything together. With the piping mocked up, I can take a measurement. So the 90 is slightly higher than the dishwasher Y, and the 90 is higher than the T on the left. Remember, everything needs to have slope, it needs to have grade. Otherwise, you're going to run into drainage problems. Now the piece of pipe can be glued in. So when you're going to glue this in, make sure that you have the slip adapters loose, that everything is movable but tight enough that it doesn't fall down. When you glue it in, of course, give it a quick spin into the fitting of the dishwasher Y and then set it where you want it. You have some time to work here since this is only 1.5 inch pipe. Now, because the T for the left compartment has been lowered, the piece of pipe glued into the trap is too long. So just do a dry fit, a mock-up, and then hold your finger where you need to cut back the piece of pipe, and then a coupling can be glued in. Now the 90 can be reinstalled. So I install it, I eye it out roughly level, and then I'll tighten down the band on the MJ, the mechanical joint, so it looks roughly level. Once this is all done, then the trap portion can be glued in and spun into position with the 90. As you can see, the right side slip adapter slid down. Make sure that the drainage is right where you want it to be before you glue in the final portion of the drainage, because once it's glued in, this will all be locked together and it's not going to be movable. Now that I think I have everything right where I want it, I'm going to take a ratchet with a 5/16 socket and then tighten down the gear clamp on the MJ before I do the coupling and glue everything together. Once the trap is being glued, I like to tighten down the union nut between the trap and the 90 right away to get everything into the position that it needs to be. Like I said, this is a seat, and if it's not aligned, you will have a weeping leak. Now the dishwasher drain can be hooked up. So the end of the hose has two different sizes. It has a 1 inch and then 5/8. Now because the dishwasher Y is a 1/2 inch, I'm going to use the 5/8 side. So the end of the dishwasher drain hose needs to be cut down, otherwise you're not going to get the 5/8 portion onto the Y. So here you can see the difference in diameter for the two different portions of the rubber end of this drain hose. So I'm going to cut the bigger end off, and the smaller end will nicely slide onto the dishwasher Y. Now the drain hose can be tightened onto the dishwasher Y. So I'm going to take the gear clamp and tighten it down to the Y. Now when you tighten it down, you're not looking for or feeling for any type of resistance. You're just looking for compression of the rubber, and once that's done, if you think it's fine, give it a tug, and that will be your preliminary test to make sure everything's okay. So I'm going to finish tightening with a ratchet. Once again, you're just looking at the rubber to make sure that it looks nice and compressed. If you tighten this too much, you will snap the band, the gear clamp, and then you're going to have to replace it. Give it a gentle tug to make sure that it's nice and solid on the end of the dishwasher Y. Alright, the drainage is all done, so I'm going to put a level to show that there is slope. The reason that it looks like it's sloping the wrong way is because the compartments aren't the same size for this sink. But with the drainage all done, now it is time to fill up the sink and test for leaks. Ideally, fill up both compartments maybe a third of the way and then pop them at the same time. You want a nice good volume of water going down so you have a proper solid test. Really, I don't think any glue joints would leak. It's either going to be the union or the MJ fitting inside the wall. So there is a drip coming from the MJ, which means the gear clamp needs to be tightened up a little bit more. Once again, go gentle so you don't snap the gear clamp. But other than that, this is all done now. So what we'll do now is an overview of this job. Alright guys, so that concludes this job. So everything went fairly smoothly here. The only problem I ran into was a leak at the MJ that I tightened up the band, the mechanical joint going into the wall. And I didn't show this, but I also had a weeping leak at the union trap. I took the trap apart once or twice. I put it back together and everything was fine. If you have a weeping leak at a union trap, just put silicone, leave the trap empty for an hour, and then refill it and you should be fine. It's not the ideal solution, but at least you're going to stop the leak. Remember, there's no pressure here. It's only water being channeled away. This would never pass in construction, but instead of you going over the top replacing stuff, a little bit of silicone, even though I personally do frown upon it myself, it's going to be the simplest solution to the job. The time on this job. The time was about an hour. I didn't run into any problems. This condo is only like 5 years old, so I mean nothing is old and brittle here. But other than that, everything went really well. This is the first time I've had a Kindred, or also known as a plastic basket strainer. All the other ones on the channel have been metal ones, so it is very similar, slightly different, but you should be able to do this on your own without any hassle. The cost of this job. The cost was about $60. The basket strainer alone was more than half the cost. It was probably about $35, and then the pipe fittings and everything else would be the remainder. This is a relatively cost-effective job. It's not expensive. You can do this on your own. I think it's generally an entry-level, intermediate type of job for a DIYer, and I think with this video you should be good to go.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. I hope something here is going to help you on your project when you need to go ahead and do that. Guys, till next time. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next project.